Collected Essays of Valerie Lynn Stevens. How Non-Resistance to Nature Serves the Ultimate Good. Part 1. What really is the force of evil, of good, the devil, God? Are they really forces not unlike electromagnetism or Newton's gravity, albeit on a quantum subatomic level? Or is it perhaps a bit less compelling and mysterious, such as unseen principalities and the likes of such wizardry that the Judeo-Christian tradition accepts? Maybe it is all just the flow of cause and effect, without any particular moralistic or spiritual significance or agenda. But then cause and effect require the interaction of living as in conscious and acting beings or forces. With such a plethora of life reaching out for life, and with the living things of the universe possessing such an obvious dominating role in life itself, how can this not possess any deeper meaning and ends? For not every cause creates the usual effect which we expect. Moreover, due to the phenomenon of the human being possessing a will, and most significantly the freedom to exercise this will in their given lot, there are an infinitude of ways that humans can react to any given cause. And with our proven limitless imagination and capacity for invention, it seems that after all is tried against it, life just frankly cannot be simplified enough to satisfy those in want of absolute answers. But perhaps a deeper probe into the conceptual human psyche, which defines these forces of creation and destruction that it perceives in the external landscape, can bring us all a little bit closer to a singular and workable approach to the complexities of life. In continuum, let us divert to our original questions of good and evil. Similar to the irreducible complexity of how life is lived and observed, lies perhaps the most influential, not to mention archaic and inflictive paradox of life itself. Of course, I speak of the reliable observation that there are destructible negative forces in the happenings, as well as there are seemingly creative, positive forces and events which compose the template of human consciousness, which we call nature, the world, or the universe. For most, a very strict partiality is maintained in the belief and assumption that neither evil nor good ever switch roles, or that they cannot ever interchange in their causes and effects. However, what I will propose in this essay will explore and suggest whether or not evil and good indeed can and do interact, along with doing so oppositionally, synchronously as well. Furthermore, it is important to begin by siphoning off any threads of doubt about my thesis by granting recognition to the fact that when we are speaking of the forces of good and evil, we are not perchance speaking of realities or actualities, but concepts. Thus, this essay will approach its subject from a more existential science of mind perspective. And as to the definition of reality and actuality, this would better be explored in its own separate essay. So, more on the classic Plato versus Aristotelian discourse later. But now we will focus on the even more ancient battle of good and evil, or that old geezer god and his equally crusty arch-nemesis, Satan himself. The most common theme of the human condition is that concerning each individual's search for identity through meaning, and happiness through both meaning and a nobility of identity and existence. To put it another way, the thing which we all end up devoting so much of our lives to is the answer to the age-old ponderance of what is the best possible life lived. Primarily, where are the elements, after one knows what they are, that will aid in the construction of such a life? After this, how, once the ideal life for each person both on an individualistic and a universalistic level is constructed or known, does one live within only the parameters of this life? More specifically, how will one defend their life structure against the tsunamis of antithetical and nullifying effect? Or most importantly, will one maintain what one values while also perceiving lucidly and confronting neutrally those things that are a threat to those values? For one surely cannot ignore them completely. To use a common example to best clarify what I mean, let's say you have a brother who is homeless with nowhere else to go but to come and stay with you. Any decent, respectable human being, of course, at first thought would take him in under sets of conditions, of course. However, there is a conflict of loyalties, not to mention a lot of other issues which might make it not such a good idea to do so for either yourself or your family if you have one. Let's say that you do have your own family to care for, which includes an infant son. In normal case circumstances, there would be no apparent reason why this could not work. It may even in fact prove to be a blessing in disguise, for maybe this new tenant could lend a hand or two with the house, the son, etc. But in this case, the reason your brother has difficulty maintaining housing and employment is due to the fact that he actively engages in antisocial behavior and endeavors. Now you see why this added element creates a conflict of morals, and even if momentarily, nonetheless a paralysis of will. For whatever you choose to do or not to do will be the result of a lot of anguishing consideration. You love your brother and desire to protect him from the bad conditions of the streets and homeless shelters, but you also love your family and want to protect them from any unsavory influences as well. One option would be to give him a chance to stay with you on the condition that he not associate with any of his dealers, that he look for work in a place of his own, and also, of course, that he not engage in those activities while staying with you. If he does this, you let him stay. If he doesn't, you do all that you can, but do not enable him in behaviors which could be potentially fatal or deleterious for you and your family. But this is just a simple example of the ways in which each and every human decision is dichotomized into two or more often irreconcilable dilemmas. Thus, one can see why it is so imperative that the subject of good and evil be recognized and explored. For no matter what we call them, these are phenomena that, without our comprehension and mastery over them, might cause our lives to flounder. The very act of breathing, however autonomic it may be, involves us in the game of existence. For the very nature of existence is twofold. It is like the old riddle of the man who has never made a decision in his life. Obviously, this man decided not to decide. In the scheme of mortal life, even the negatives, or the not doings, are loaded with their own implications. The point is, we must face the fact that life is up to us.